Good morning, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well on what for us down here is a lovely, mild Sunday morning. As you can see, I'm here alone. Daryl is having he has some health issues. And so it looks like he's not going to be joining us today. And so we're going to be saying a healing prayer for him. But right now, what we're going to do is go ahead and start. Blessed is the spot and the house and the place and the city and the heart and the mountain and the refuge and the cave and the valley and the land and the sea and the island and the meadow where mention of God have been made, and his praise glorified. Ooh. Good morning again, everyone. I see in our Zoom stream, Joan has joined us. Good morning. She's not quite in, but she's connected. And Farah is with us. Good morning, Farah. Hello, everyone out there in Facebook land. We're glad you're all here. And I did see Husham for a moment, but he's gone now. Hopefully he'll be back. Today, we're going to, of course, be continuing with the proofs of Baha'u'llah's mission. But we're going to start out by saying a prayer. I think it would be good. You know, I just get this feeling, number one, I know that I'm not alone. I'm just your average human being. And, you know, you think about around the world, there's so many things going on that can evoke great sadness. And so I think it might be a good idea to start out with this prayer by Abdul-Baha. Oh God, refresh and gladden my spirit, purify my heart, illumine my powers. I lay all my affairs in thy hand. Thou art my guide and my refuge. I will no longer be sorrowful and grieved. I will be a happy and joyful being. O God, I will no longer be full of anxiety, nor will I let trouble harass me. I will not dwell on the unpleasant things of life. O God, thou art more friend to me than I am to myself. I dedicate myself to thee, O Lord. And again, this is a prayer by Abdul-Baha. Now, again, we are continuing, of course, with the book that we've been working for weeks, the proofs of Baha'u'llah's mission. That doesn't change. What might be a little different today is we're going to try and get through 2 chapters. The chapters that we're looking at today are chapters 16 and 17, I should say, the chapters, and they're both pretty brief. And so we're going to see, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get through both chapters. The first one, I think perhaps we need to give a little bit of context. Last week, we were, again, remember the proofs of Baha'u'llah's mission. And so we're looking at what are some of the proofs that a messenger of God is a manifestation of God, or that a prophet is a manifestation of God. And so last week we looked at chapter 15, which says the person of the manifestation is a proof that he is a manifestation. The way he lives his life, the way he it lives an exemplary life. He exemplifies his teachings. Okay. Now, today we're going to look more specifically at Baha'u'llah. Okay. Chapter 16 will be Baha'u'llah's character and personality. And chapter 17 will be about his knowledge. His knowledge is innate. And that's one thing that is true of all the manifestations of God. They know things that they don't have to go to school to learn. They just know them. It's called innate knowledge, I-N-N-A-T-E, innate knowledge. It's just a part of their being. So let's go ahead and begin, again, chapter 16, Baha'u'llah's character and personality. And everything in this particular chapter, I should point out, is coming from Abdu'l-Baha. Okay. This first one is actually coming from selections from the writings of Abdu'l-Baha, where Abdu'l-Baha writes, again, among his signs is his demonstrating perfection in all his ways, as testified by the learned and accomplished of many nations. Those people those regular people, shall we say, that we have great respect for, we respect their knowledge and we respect their, let's say, their talents and their skills and so forth. And yet they look at the manifestation of God and they recognize his perfection and they testify to that. So his demonstrating perfection in all his ways, as testified by the learned and accomplished of many nations. Abdu'l-Baha goes on in Promulgations of Universal Peace. He says, Baha'u'llah did not seek position or political station, notwithstanding his connection with the government. And we'll get into what those connections were in time. But Baha'u'llah did not seek position or political station, notwithstanding his connection with the government. This occasioned surprise and comment. It was frequently said, how is it that a young man of such keen intelligence and subtle perception does not seek lucrative appointments? As a matter of fact, every position is open to him. This is an historical statement fully attested by the people of Persia, and I should point out that that was a quote. How is it that a young man of such keen intelligence and subtle perception does not seek lucrative appointments? As a matter of fact, every position is open to him. And again, that's unquote. This is an historical statement fully attested by the people of Persia. Abdu'l-Baha goes on to say, in reference to Baha'u'llah, he was most generous, giving abundantly to the poor. None who came to him were turned away. The doors of his house were open to all. He always had many guests. This unbounded generosity was conducive to greater astonishment from the fact that he sought neither position nor prominence. In commenting upon this, his friend said he would become impoverished, for his expenses were many and his wealth becoming more and more limited. And so they were thinking, why is he not thinking of his own affairs? They inquired of each other. But some who were wise declared, this personage is connected with another world. He has something sublime within him that is not evident now. He has something sublime within him that is not evident now. That's better. The day is coming when it will be manifested. I'll say that again. This is what they were saying about Allah. This personage is connected with another world. He has something sublime within him that is not evident now. The day is coming when it will be manifested. Abdu'l-Baha goes on to say, in truth, the blessed perfection was a refuge for every weak one, a shelter for every fearing one, kind to every indigent one, lenient and loving to all creatures. He became well known in regard to these qualities before the Bab appeared. And of course, the Bab is the forerunner and herald of Baha'u'llah. So even before the appearance of the Bab, these qualities were seen in Baha'u'llah by others. Abdu'l-Baha goes on to say in Some Answered Questions, if you had come to this blessed place in the days of the manifestation of the evident light, if you had attained to the court of his presence and witnessed his luminous beauty, you would have understood that his teachings and perfection were not in need of further evidence. Only through the honor of entering his presence, many souls became confirmed believers. I'll say that again. Only through the honor of entering his presence, many souls became confirmed believers. They had no need of other proofs. Even those people who rejected and hated him bitterly when they had met him would testify to the grandeur of Baha'u'llah, saying, "This is a magnificent man, but what a pity that he makes such a claim." Otherwise, all that he says is acceptable. So even his naysayers were seeing all of these positive qualities. This is a magnificent man, but what a pity that he makes such a claim. Otherwise, all that he says is acceptable. Abdu'l-Baha goes on, and again in Promulgation of Universal Peace, he says, even his enemies acknowledge the greatness of Baha'u'llah, saying he was the miracle of humanity. This was their confession, although they did not believe in him. He was eulogized by Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, and Muslims who denied his claim. They frequently said he is matchless, unique. A Christian poet in the Orient wrote, "Do not believe him a manifestation of God, yet his miracles are as great as the sun." I'm sorry, I think about, I don't know, that juxtaposition there. Do not believe him a manifestation of God, yet his miracles are as great as the sun. Even though, in just a couple of weeks ago, we were reading that miracles are not the proof of a manifestation of God, or at least not that they're not the proof, but that we should not depend on miracles. And yet here's someone who's pointing out that his miracles are as great as the sun. Mirza Abdul Fadl has mentioned many poems of this kind, and there are numerous others. The testimonies of Baha'u'llah's enemies witness that he was the miracle of mankind, that he walked in a special pathway of knowledge and was peerless in personality. Abdu'l-Baha, again in Some Answered Questions, goes on to say, it often happened that in Baghdad, certain Mohammedan ulama, Jewish rabbis, and Christians met together with some European scholars in a blessed reunion. Each one had some question to propose, and although they were possessed of varying degrees of culture, they each heard a sufficient and convincing reply and retired satisfied. Even the Persian ulama who were at Karbala and Najaf chose a wise man whom they sent on a mission to Baha'u'llah. His name was Mullah Hassan Amu. He came into the holy presence, he came to Baha'u'llah. He came into the holy presence and proposed a number of questions on behalf of the ulama, and I'm saying that wrong, ulama, to which Baha'u'llah replied. Then Hassan Amu said, the ulama recognize without hesitation and confess the knowledge and virtue of Baha'u'llah, and they are unanimously convinced that in all learning, he has no peer or equal. And it is also evident that he has never studied or acquired this learning. But still, they say, we are not contented with this. We do not acknowledge the reality of his mission by virtue of his wisdom and righteousness. Therefore, we ask him to show us a miracle in order to satisfy and tranquilize our hearts. This is what they're asking of Baha'u'llah. And Baha'u'llah replied, although you have no right to ask this, when I'm reading this, I'm hearing the authority of this manifestation of God, just the authority of what he's saying to them, just as, again, other manifestations of God, they have this voice of authority. And, there are those people in positions of power that are threatened by it. There are those people that question, like how when you get the nerve to talk like this? Well, their authority, of course, comes from God. But Baha'u'llah replied, although you have no right to ask this, for God should test his creatures, and they should not test God, still, I allow and accept this request. But the cause of God is not a theatrical display that is presented every hour, of which some new diversion may be asked for every day. If it were thus, the cause of God would become mere child's play. And I should point out, this is actually a rather lengthy quote coming directly from Baha'u'llah. So I'm going to say that again. Baha'u'llah replied, although you have no right to ask this, for God should test his creatures, and they should not test God, still, I allow and accept this request. But the cause of God is not a theatrical display that is presented every hour, of which some new diversion may be asked for every day. If it were thus, the cause of God would become mere child's play. And he goes on, the ulamas must therefore assemble and with one accord choose one miracle and write that after the performance of this miracle, they will no longer entertain doubts about me. This is what he wants them to write. Write that after the performance of this miracle, they will no longer entertain doubts about me, and that all will acknowledge and confess the truth of my cause. I'm sorry. I get these thoughts that are really, border on sacrilegious. So I'm not going to even say that. I'm kind of thinking he's telling them, okay, if you're ready to really back up what you're saying, kind of put your money where your mouth is. Let's put this in writing. And that all will acknowledge and confess the truth of my cause. He then goes on to say, let them seal this paper and bring it to me. This must be the accepted criteria. And so again, you hear this power in Baha'u'llah and what he's directing them to do. He says, this must be the accepted criteria. If the miracle is performed, no doubt will remain for them. If the miracle is performed, no doubt will remain for them. And if not, we, a reference to himself, if not, we shall be convicted of imposture. I'm taking a pause here because again, the learned man, Hassan Abu, rose and replied, there is no more to be said. He then kissed the knee of the Blessed One, although he was not a believer, and went. He gathered the ulama and gave them the sacred message. They consulted together and said, this man is an enchanter. That sounds kind of like a magician or maybe even a witch, if you will. This man is an enchanter. Perhaps he will perform an enchantment, and then we shall have nothing more to say. Acting on this belief, they did not dare push the matter further. I'll admit every time I read this, I get a little annoyed by it because, well, I just find it. Come on, you're being so bold in your accusations and your dares. And then when this manifestation of God tells you, sure, basically, let's do this. And look what they do. They'd rather hold on to their power than to get the proof that they're seeking. They consulted together and said, this man is an enchanter. Perhaps he will perform an enchantment, and then we shall have nothing more to say. Acting on this belief, they did not dare to push the matter further. This man, Hassan Amu, mentioned this fact at many meetings. And leaving Karbala, he went to Kermanshah and Tehran and spread a detailed account of it everywhere, laying emphasis on the fear and the withdrawal of the ulama. Briefly, all his, in this particular case, this is a reference again to Baha'u'llah, it is capitalized. Briefly, all his adversaries in the Orient acknowledged his greatness, his grandeur, knowledge, and virtue. And though they were his enemies, they always spoke of him as, and this is in quotes, though they were his enemies, they always spoke of him as the renowned So even the non-believers paid him a high level of respect in the way that they referred to him. I think I'll take a moment out and maybe do a song here. I'll admit, once again, I had really hoped that Daryl would be here, but Daryl he's really under the weather right now, and he always he pushes himself really, really hard. I think what I'll do because of that, I think I'll do a healing prayer, a sung version of the healing prayer. I had that pulled out and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is right there. And I would also like to point out that last week, Ingrid Lanier asked us to pray for her. And we see Suzanne is with us. I'm cutting into my own sentence, but Suzanne is with us. Hello, Suzanne, and Ushang and Gilbert are with us. But Ingrid Lanier, one of our local friends, one of our local Baha'i friends, she had surgery last week, and she asked that we say a prayer for her last Sunday, which we did. And she has called and let me know that her surgery went very well, and she's on her way to recovery. So we were glad to hear that. But again, Daryl is not feeling well. So, and I'm sure we've got some other people out there that are sick. Thy name is my healing. Thy name is my healing. Oh my God, and remembrance of thee, remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope. Is my companion. Thy mercy, thy mercy to me, thy mercy to me is my healing and my succor. In both this world, in both this world, in both this world, and the world to come. my God. Oh my God. Thy name is my healing, O my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy, and nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my succor, in both this world and the world to come. Thou verily art the all-bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. That's a very well-known prayer for healing in the Baha'i writings. But we're going to continue. We're going to go on to the next chapter because, as I said, today both chapters are relatively brief. And so, yeah, we can. This is the first. We're actually able to do two in one day. I don't know if Daryl were here. With me stopping him so much, we probably wouldn't be able to do it because. Anyway, now moving on. Again, what we just read is, of course, was specifically about Baha'u'llah's character and personality, how his character was above reproach. And so many people saw all these amazing qualities in him. And yet there were those who, even recognizing his greatness, recognizing his stature, would still not acknowledge him as a manifestation of God. And that's part of the plight of the manifestations of God. There will be those people, often people in power, that will still be naysayers, that will still deny what they themselves witness. And so this next chapter, chapter 17, is about the knowledge of the manifestation of God. And the name of this chapter, his knowledge is innate. Again, it means that it's a part of their being, and they didn't have to go to a school or get special learning somewhere. It's just they have this knowledge because, again, it comes from God. And so some of these writings are coming from Abdu'l-Baha, some are coming directly from Baha'u'llah. And so the first comes from Abdu'l-Baha, from selections of the writings of Abdu'l-Baha. He's in reference to Baha'u'llah, he says, among his signs is the dawning sun of his knowledge and the rising moon of his arts and skills. Among his signs is the dawning sun of his knowledge and the rising moon of his arts and skills. He goes on in Divine Philosophy. The sun emanates from itself, and does not draw the light from other sources. And so this is, again, where Abdu'l-Baha, as is often done in Baha'i writings, and they use a lot of natural phenomena as metaphors. And so he's doing this again. The sun emanates from itself and does not draw its light from other sources. The divine teachers have the innate light. They have knowledge and understanding of all things in the universe. The rest of the world receives its light from them and through them. The rest of the world receives its light from them, and through them, the arts and sciences are revived in each age. And so when the manifestation of God comes, there is like this explosion, for lack of a better word, of spiritual energy that affects the progress of mankind. The rest of the world receives its light from them, and through them, the arts and sciences are revived in each age. Abraham and Moses went to no school. Jesus had neither school nor master. Muhammad never had a lesson. The Bab and Baha'u'llah had no professors. How can those who depend on mortals be divine messengers? And so this is the question he's posing. How could we say they're divine if they had to get their learning from mere mortals? How can those who depend on mortals be divine messengers? How can a lamp, which has to be lighted, be eternal? How can a lamp, which has to be lighted, be eternal? The divine teacher does not come to acquire knowledge. I think that's a pretty profound statement. They don't come here to learn, they come to teach. The divine teacher does not come to acquire knowledge. Abdu'l-Baha goes on in Promulgations of Universal Peace to say, The Blessed Perfection, Baha'u'llah, belonged to the royal family of Persia. From earliest childhood, he was distinguished among his relatives and friends. They said, this child has extraordinary power. This is his relative and friends saying this. This child has extraordinary power in wisdom, intelligence, and as a source of new knowledge. He was advanced beyond his age and superior to his surroundings. All who knew him were astonished at his precocity. You know, these precocious children, although this, of course, is probably a bad example, but we all have known some, probably all of us have known some precocious child that you know, just develops quickly. Well, can you imagine how precocious a manifestation of God must have been as a child, beyond what we're used to in just, you know, very smart children? All who knew him were astonished at his precocity. During the period of youth, the Blessed Perfection did not enter school. He was not willing to be taught. This fact is well established among the Persians of Tehran. Nevertheless, he was capable of solving the difficult problems of all who came to him. In whatever meeting, scientific assembly, or theological discussion, he was found. I'm reading that poorly. In whatever meeting, scientific assembly, or theological discussion he was found, he became the authority of explanation upon intricate and abstruse questions presented. As I'm reading this, I'm thinking about that story of Jesus Christ when he was at the temple and, you know, among all of these elders and teachers and so forth. And they were wondering, how does this young man or young lad, how does he get all this and how does he know so much? Well, this is kind of the same way it was with Baha'u'llah. He became the authority of explanation upon intricate and abstruse questions presented. Abdu'l-Baha goes on in Some Answered Questions to say, Baha'u'llah had never studied Arabic, and yet he wrote, many of his writings are written in Arabic. Baha'u'llah had never studied Arabic. He had not had a tutor or teacher, nor had he entered a school. Nevertheless, the eloquence and elegance of his blessed expositions in Arabic, as well as his Arabic writings, caused astonishment and stupefaction to the most accomplished Arabic scholars, and all recognized and declared that he was incomparable and unequaled. So again, I want to go back to what the topic is. The fact that the knowledge of the manifestation of God is innate. It's simply a part of his being. And so all of these little anecdotes are simply attesting to that.
Sorry. For my Facebook friend, when did he born?
I'm sorry?
When was he born?
Baha'u'llah was born in Persia, in what we now know today as Iran. He was born in oh my goodness, I'm supposed to know this. And now my mind is not there. I believe it was 1817. I believe it was
not
18.
That far.
Say that again?
It's not that far.
No. Someone correct me if I bet that you're wrong. But I believe it was 1817. You all would know. And I know it's in here, but my memory is terrible. But he became the authority. Oh, I'm sorry. Baha'u'llah had never studied Arabic. He had not had a tutor or a teacher, nor had he entered a school. Nevertheless, the eloquence and elegance of his blessed expositions in Arabic, as well as his Arabic writings, caused astonishment and stupefaction to the most accomplished Arabic scholars. And all recognized and declared that he was incomparable and unequaled. Abdu'l-Baha goes on in Some Answered Questions. This isn't just about being, highly intelligent. He manifested such virtue, knowledge, and perfections that he became a wonder to all the people of Persia. So much so that in Tehran, Baghdad, Constantinople, Rumelia, and even in Akka, every one of the learned and scientific men who entered his presence, whether friend or enemy, never failed to receive the most sufficient and convincing answer to whatever question was propounded. All frequently acknowledged that he, Baha'u'llah, all frequently acknowledged that he was alone and unique in all perfections. This next passage actually comes from Baha'u'llah himself. In Gleanings, Baha'u'llah writes, in reference to himself, "We have not entered any school, nor read any of your dissertations. Incline your ears to the words of this unlettered one, wherewith he summoneth you unto God, the ever abiding." I love that sentence. Incline your ears to the words of this unlettered one, wherewith he summoneth you unto God, the ever abiding. Better is this for you than all the treasures of the earth, could ye but comprehend it. Better is this for you than all the treasures of the earth, could ye but comprehend it. He goes on to say, in the epistle to the son of the wolf, he says, again, this wronged one hath frequented no school, neither hath he attended the controversies of the learned. By my life, not of my own volition have I revealed myself, but God of his own choosing hath manifested me. And again, having grown up in the Christian tradition, I keep hearing echoes of Jesus Christ in this. You know, I'm not doing this, it's not about me. I'm doing this because this is my mission. This is what God has told me to do. Not of my own volition, not of my own will, not of mine own volition have I revealed myself, but God of his own choosing hath manifested me. Wow. Baha'u'llah continues in Tablets of Baha'u'llah. Thou knowest full well that we perused not the books which men possess, and we acquired not the learning amongst them. And yet, whenever we desire to quote the sayings of the learned and of the wise, presently there will appear before the face of thy Lord in the form of a tablet all that which hath appeared in the world and is revealed in the holy books and scriptures. Wow. Again, he's making this concrete and tangible for us, you know, lesser human beings that need it to be put in more concrete form. So he says, thou knowest full well that we perused not the books which men possess, and we acquired not the learning current amongst them, and yet, whenever we desire, we quote the sayings of the learned and of the wise. Presently, there will appear before the face of thy Lord in the form of a tablet all that which hath appeared in the world and is revealed in the holy books and scriptures. Thus do we set down in writing that which the eye perceiveth. Verily, his knowledge encompasseth the earth and the heavens. So Baha'u'llah is basically describing what he goes through when he's, let's just say, spouting this knowledge. It's like he's able to see it on a tablet and then share it so that it is then written down. Thus do we set down in writing that which the eye perceiveth. Verily, his knowledge, meaning the knowledge of God, encompasseth the earth and the heavens. He continues, this is a tablet wherein the pen of the unseen hath inscribed the knowledge of all that hath been and shall be, a knowledge that none other but my wondrous tongue, wow, a knowledge that none other but my wondrous tongue can interpret. This is a tablet wherein the pen of the unseen hath inscribed the knowledge of all that hath been and shall be, a knowledge that none other but my wondrous tongue can interpret. Indeed, my heart, as it is in itself, hath been purged by God from the concepts of the learned, and is sanctified from the utterances of the wise. In truth, naught doth it mirror forth, but the revelations of God. My heart, as it is in itself, hath been purged by God from the concepts of the learned, and is sanctified from the utterances of the wise. I love that, being sanctified from the utterances of the wise. In truth, not doth it mirror forth, but the revelations of God. Unto this beareth witness the tongue of grandeur in this perspicuous book. So time after time after time, Baha'u'llah is saying, I'm not, I don't need your schools. And again, this is a terrible way of putting it, but no, I didn't learn what I know in your schools. I didn't get it from other people that we might all acknowledge as wise and learned. This knowledge comes from God, and because of that, it is innate. And he described the process by which he's actually seeing the word of God. In this chapter, Baha'u'llah concludes, this is coming from Gleanings, he says, we've read this before, and it makes me smile because it's such a bold statement. And yet it's quite appropriate coming from a manifestation of God. O ye leaders of religion, who is the man amongst you that can rival me in vision or insight? Where is he to be found that dareth to claim to be my equal in utterance or wisdom? No, by my Lord the All-Merciful, all on earth shall pass away. And this is the face of your Lord, the Almighty, the Well-Beloved. Who is the man amongst you that can rival me in vision or insight? Where is he to be found that dareth to claim to be my equal in utterance or wisdom? No, by my Lord the All-Merciful, all on the earth shall pass away. And this is the face of your Lord, the Almighty, the Well-Beloved. And so again, the knowledge of the manifestation of God is innate. They don't get it from others. They get it from God. I think it would be good at this time. I actually wanted to say a different prayer, but I'd have to get up and go get the book, and I won't get it. Were you going to get it? It's a book there on the table. My lovely wife and director and stage manager and and producer, yes, please, thank you. And we've read this before, but I'm going to read it again today. I had it marked and then I moved my mark again. It's close. Don't come upon it soon. I'm just going to put it aside and just dismiss, because I hadn't actually planned on it. I shouldn't say I hadn't planned on it. I considered reading it, and then apparently I didn't consider it long enough. What is that? For some reason, I'm not finding what I'm looking for. So as you can see, I keep talking like I'm going to dismiss it, and yet I don't want to, because to me it is so important. Here it is. This is a statement that I've read before, and it is, the reason I'm reading it again is because it actually points to various attributes of the manifestation of God, in this particular case, specifically of Baha'u'llah, and the fact that, during all of his life, during all of this time, he's going through all kinds of difficulties while still revealing the word of God. But this is a prayer that has been offered by Baha'u'llah. It says, "Unto thee be praise, O Lord my God. I beseech thee by thy most great name, who hath been shut up in the prison town at Akka, and who, as thou beholdest, O my God, hath fallen into the hands of his enemies, and is threatened by the swords of the wicked doers, to make me steadfast in his cause, and to direct mine eyes continually towards his court, in such wise that nothing whatsoever will have the power to turn me back from him. I testify, O my Lord, that he hath surrendered his life in thy path, and hath wished for himself nothing but tribulation and the love he beareth to thee. He hath endured all manner of vexations, that he may manifest thy sovereignty unto thy servants, and exalt thy word amidst thy creatures. As the adversities deepened and the troubles sent down by thee compassed him on every side, he became so impassioned by his thought of thee, that the hosts of all them that had disbelieved in thee and repudiated thy signs ceased to affright him. I implore thee, O my Lord, by him and by whatsoever pertaineth unto him, to set my affections upon him, even as he hath set his own affections upon thyself. I testify that his love is thy love, and his self is thyself, and his beauty thy beauty, and his cause thy cause. Deny me not, O my Lord, what is with thee, and suffer me not to be forgetful of what thou didst desire in thy days. Thou art verily the Almighty, the most exalted, the all-glorious, the all-wise. That one statement, I testify that his love is thy love, and his self thyself, and his beauty thy beauty, and his cause thy cause, I think speaks to just the power that the manifestation of God has, whether we recognize it or not. At this time, we'd like anyone who would like to share or a prayer or a passage or a song of your choosing. And as always, we like to start out with our Camby's moment. Camby's, do you have something to share with us today?
Yes. There's a prayer by Abdul Baha asking for confirmation from God for all humanity.
Thank you.
ای پروردگار مهربان، این کسان بنده آستانند و در نهایت صدق و راستی و درستی جام آمال سرشار فرما، انوار تابان کن، پرتو عنایت ببخش، مظهر موهبت بفرما، روز به روز ترقی بخش و الطاف افزون فرما. تا این نفوس نفیسه
به اعلی درجه فلاح و نجاح وصول بیابند. تویی مقتدر و تویی دهنده و بخشنده و بینا. عبدالبها عباس.
Thank you, Cambies.
You're welcome.
Thank you.